The rain on Vesera Prime fell like molten silver. Every drop burned faintly on the skin, a stinging reminder that the planet itself rejected anything fragile, especially humans. But Marvin Hale sat alone on the edge of the landing platform anyway, legs dangling over a 300-meter drop, eating his ration pack with slow, stubborn bites. He did not even flinch as the acidic drizzle steamed against his jacket. He had earned his meal. He had spent the last 18 hours repairing a breach in the Royal Dreadnought's grav core, a structure so ancient and volatile that even touching it without spiritual armor was considered madness. Humans did not have spiritual armor. Humans had a wrench, stubbornness, and a ridiculous habit of surviving what should kill them. Marvin wiped the sleeve across his face as the rain hissed down. He muttered to himself, "Another day, another attempt by the universe to eliminate me." The platform trembled. The air thickened with pressure, and then the shadow fell over him. A colossal pair of wings folded, casting the entire platform into darkness. Every drop of silver rain sizzled into vapor before touching the figure's scales. Marvin did not have to turn around. Only one being in the Dominion could silence the storm itself. Empress Krithis Drasvale, the Dragon Empress, ruler of 9 star systems, bearer of the cosmic flame, eater of worlds, if legend was to be believed. She lowered her serpentine head beside him, eyes glowing like twin nebula cores. Her voice rumbled like a dying star collapsing. "Human." Marvin kept chewing. He swallowed. He answered without standing. "Empress." Her nostrils flared. "You sit in corrosive rainfall. I noticed. You ignore my summon for a formal meal. I was hungry now. You repair my grav core with your bare hands. I needed tools, but they melted. And you sit on the edge of my palace as if you have no fear of death. I do not plan on falling today. Tomorrow is negotiable. A long silence. A dangerous silence. The kind that made most species collapse in terror." The Empress leaned closer. Her voice dropped to something almost soft. "Why do you eat alone in the rain, human?" Marvin hesitated. Then he realized there was no point hiding it. She could sense deception across the entire spectrum of thought. He placed the almost empty ration pouch on his lap. "Because it is the only place where no one looks at me like I am disposable." The Empress did not move, but something ancient stirred behind her golden eyes. She tilted her head. "Disposable?" Marvin laughed, but there was no joy in it. "I know what the Dominion thinks of my kind. Humans are only good for crawling into broken machines and die in interesting ways." The Empress exhaled a blast of warm, dry air that pushed the rain outward in a wide circle. "Yet you remain. I fix things. It keeps me alive. Most days. And if something breaks you," Marvin smirked, "then I break it back." Another silence, this one colder. He dared look up at her. And that was when he realized her gaze was not anger. It was something infinitely more dangerous. It was curiosity. "Human," she said, "there is something you must know." She lifted one crimson talon, and on the underside of it, something glimmered. Marvin frowned. A faint blue thread, pulsing like a heartbeat, clung to her scales. He stood without thinking. He approached. He reached out. Then he froze. He felt it. A signal, not mechanical, not magical, something older, something hungry. His stomach twisted. His skin went cold despite the burning rain. "No," he whispered. "That is impossible." The Empress lowered her head until her eyes were level with his. "It attached itself to me while you repaired the grav core," she said. "You touched it first. You awakened it." Marvin staggered backward, because he knew exactly what it was. Human history had taught him the oldest warning in the archives. Do not disturb the blue thread. Do not awaken the Star Weaver. Do not touch anything that pulses like a heartbeat when it should not. And yet he had. And now it clung to the most powerful being in the Dominion Empire. The Empress watched him carefully. "Explain," she commanded. Marvin swallowed hard. He forced his voice to remain steady. "That thing, that thread, it is not alive." He paused. "It is something worse." The Empress narrowed her eyes. "And what does it want?" Marvin finally looked straight at her. "It wants a host." A deep vibration rolled through the air, and the platform trembled so violently that several tiles cracked beneath her claws. Her voice rumbled low. "Then speak the truth, human. If it has chosen me." Marvin's throat tightened. He whispered the part that would break his heart. "It means the Star Weaver judged your species unworthy of survival." The Empress stared at him. The rain hissed louder. The dreadnought engines echoed in the distance. Marvin felt his chest tighten with dread, because he knew what came next. The universe was about to learn exactly how terrifying a human could be when everything was on the line. Before he could speak again, the blue thread flared. It pulsed. It crawled up her talon. Marvin's eyes widened. The Empress's voice sharpened. "Human, what is it doing?" Marvin stepped forward instinctively. He reached for her claw. He shouted, "Do not move." He grabbed the thread with his bare hand, and the universe ripped open. A sound like a roar and a scream and a collapsing sun exploded in his skull. The platform shattered. The sky tore into fractals of light, and something ancient stirred in the void. Marvin felt it crawl across his nerves. It whispered in 1,000 dead languages. It knew him. It remembered him. And it wanted him alive, because humans tasted different. Marvin forced his breath out. He tightened his grip. He refused to let go. The Empress roared as the air around them fractured. And then, everything vanished in a flash of impossible blue. The universe snapped back into existence with a violent lurch. Marvin hit the ground first. Hard. He rolled across something cold, something metallic, something humming with unstable power beneath its surface. His vision sparked with blue afterimages. He tasted blood. He forced his lungs to pull in air. Then he heard it, a roar so massive that it made the deck beneath him vibrate. The Empress, Krithis Drasvale, had survived the jump. Her massive wings smashed against the ceiling as she struggled to orient herself in the narrow space. But this was not Vesera Prime. This was not anywhere he recognized. Marvin pushed himself to his knees. Lights flickered overhead. Old lights. Dust-choked lights. Industrial lights from a forgotten era of the galaxy. He turned slowly. Rows of tower machines surrounded them. Pipes, ancient conduits, crystal furnaces that pulsed with faint, dying energy. The architecture was not Dominion. It was older, much older. The Empress lowered her head beside him. "Human," she growled, voice echoing through the abandoned chamber. "Tell me what you have done." Marvin shook his head. "I did not bring us here." "You touched the thread." "I had to. It was merging with your nervous system. And now we stand in a dead station that should not exist." Marvin scanned the environment again. The walls curved inward like rib bones. The metal was scored with countless symbols. Blue, fractal, alive. Recognition hit him with the force of a starship collision. "No, this is impossible." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "Speak." Marvin lifted his hand, pointing at the glowing glyphs. "This is a Star Weaver cradle." The Empress inhaled sharply. Her scales rippled with tension. A nursery of the ancient enemy. Not a nursery. Marvin swallowed. A prison. A low hum vibrated through the floor. The lights brightened. The machine stirred. Something was waking. The Empress's talons dug into the metal. If a prison awakens, it is because something seeks to escape. Marvin nodded slowly. And the only thing that could escape from a Star Weaver cradle, he trailed off. The Empress finished the sentence for him, is a Star Weaver. A new pulse of blue erupted from the far end of the chamber. Marvin shielded his eyes. The Empress bared her teeth. Shapes moved within the light. Geometric patterns. Shifting angles that twisted in ways that defied physics. Something was uncoiling. Something vast. Something hungry. Marvin forced himself to stand despite the shaking in his legs. "We need to leave. Now!" The Empress spread her wings, preparing to launch upward. Before she could move, a voice echoed across the chamber. A voice that did not vibrate in the air. A voice that vibrated in the mind. "Human!" Marvin froze. The Empress snarled, flames gathering behind her teeth. The voice continued. You grasped the thread. You held it as if you deserved it. Marvin clenched his fists. His heart hammered. Show yourself. The chamber dimmed. The light gathered into a massive silhouette, a towering figure of shifting blue light and impossible geometry, a star weaver. Its voice coiled into him like a hook. Your species was meant to fade, yet you persist, yet you resist, yet you challenge the darkness. The Empress stepped forward, placing herself between Marvin and the creature. Her wings flared wide. You will not touch what is mine. The weaver's form rippled, amused. I did not come for dragon. Its gaze, though shapeless, locked onto Marvin. I came for the human who pulled me from sleep. Marvin felt the temperature drop. The machines around them groaned. The weaver's voice darkened. I tasted your mind when you grasped the thread. I felt your fear. I felt your hope. It paused, and I felt something else. Marvin's chest tightened. What did you feel? The weaver's form expanded, towering over them both. I felt a memory inside you that should not exist. Marvin's eyes widened. A memory? A memory of someone who touched the thread before you. His heartbeat stopped. His breath caught. Because for the first time in his life, Marvin understood what terrified him more than death. The weaver whispered, You are not the first human to awaken us. Marvin stepped backward, shaking. That is impossible. Humans have never. The weaver interrupted him. Your ancestor woke us, and your ancestor died for it. The Empress's eyes flicked toward Marvin. Her voice dropped to something terrifyingly calm. Human, explain. Marvin could not. He truly could not. Because he never knew anything about his ancestors. He never knew his lineage. He never knew why he always felt the machines whisper to him in ways others never could. His breath shook. His throat tightened. The weaver's entire shape convulsed. The thread seeks bloodlines. The thread chooses heirs, it said. And your blood carries a mark. Marvin whispered the only words he could form. Why me? The weaver's answer was soft. Cruel. Ancient. Because the last human who carried the mark destroyed us. Marvin felt the world tilt. The Empress inhaled sharply. She stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. Her voice rumbled. Human, what did your species hide from the galaxy? Marvin shook his head violently. I do not know. I swear I do not know. But the weaver's laughter echoed across the chamber. You will? It raised an impossible limb. The machines around them roared. The cradle awakened fully. The light swallowed the floor beneath them. The Empress leaped forward to shield Marvin. But the weaver struck first, and the universe split open again. The universe screamed as it opened. Marvin felt the sound tear through his bones. Light folded. Gravity twisted. Something heavy slammed into him. It was the Empress. Her wings wrapped around him as they crashed through layers of shifting dimensions. Her scales burned against his skin. Her voice thundered inside his skull. Hold on, human. He tried. Stars stretched into threads. Matter shredded. The Star Weaver pulled them through a corridor of fractured reality. Machines howled in the distance. Something metallic snapped behind them. Then everything exploded outward. They hit solid stone. Hard. Marvin skidded across a cold granite floor, sparks flying from the metal pieces on his suit. The Empress crashed beside him, claws carving deep scars into the stone as she halted her momentum. Silence fell. Marvin groaned. He forced himself upright, trembling. His vision was still warped, filled with floating blue streaks. The Empress shook herself, scales crackling with displaced energy. She lifted her head. Her golden eyes widened. Human, look. Marvin blinked. Then he looked up. His stomach dropped. They stood inside a colossal underground chamber. Ancient pillars rose like the ribs of a titan. But it was what covered the pillars that made Marvin's blood run cold. Human symbols. Human carvings. Human script. He approached one of the pillars with slow, hesitant steps. He touched the engravings with his fingers. They were old. So old, but perfectly preserved. He whispered, This is English. The Empress lowered her head beside him. "You are certain?" Marvin nodded. "Yes, this is my language. My people wrote this." The Empress frowned, her tail curling. "Then this proves something very dangerous." Marvin swallowed. "What?" She stared at him. "Humans walked this chamber before your dominion existed, before your era, before your species remembered its own infancy." Marvin's heartbeat thundered. He stepped back. "No! Humanity never left Earth until 400 years ago." The Empress hissed softly. "Then your species has forgotten its own history." The thought hit Marvin like a hammer. Forgotten? All of it? Impossible. Unthinkable. But the writing on the pillars said otherwise. A gust of cold air swept through the chamber. Not wind. Breath. Marvin froze. The Empress's wings locked in place. Something moved behind the nearest column. A faint shuffle. A dragging sound. The air grew colder. Marvin clenched his jaw. His voice trembled. "We are not alone." The Empress's eyes turned into slits of molten gold. She lowered her body into a defensive stance. Her flames flickered around her mouth. A figure stepped into view. Humanoid. Tall. Wrapped in tattered metal cloth that shimmered faintly. Its face was hidden behind a cracked helmet with a single glowing slit across the visor. Marvin's breath caught. The figure stopped 10 meters away. Its voice came through the helmet, distorted, ancient and broken. "You carry the blood." Marvin felt the floor tilt beneath his feet. He took a single step back. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head slowly. Its voice crackled again. "I am the last custodian of the Forgotten Vault. I guard the remnants of your kind." Marvin's skin prickled. The Empress stepped protectively in front of him. Her voice was a low growl. "Explain yourself, Relic." The custodian raised a hand. Symbols ignited across the chamber. All human, all glowing, all waiting. "Your species was a threat to the Star Weavers," the custodian said. "You rose against them when every other empire fell. You broke their cradles. You burned their nests. You crushed their god engines." Marvin's chest tightened. His ears rang. His voice felt weightless. "That cannot be true." The custodian took one slow step forward. The floor cracked beneath him. "It is truth. Humanity was the first species to fight the Weavers. You were warriors, engineers, strategists, and destroyers." The custodian paused. "Until the Weavers erased your memory. Until they broke your past. Until they made you forget what you truly were." Marvin staggered. He leaned against a pillar to steady himself. "Why erase us?" The custodian answered without hesitation. "Because humans almost annihilated them." The Empress inhaled sharply. Her massive wings rustled against the ground. Her voice rumbled with awe and disbelief. "Human, your ancestors warred with cosmic predators and lived." Marvin felt dizzy. He tried to speak. He could not. Because everything he thought he knew about humans, everything the galaxy believed, was wrong. The custodian pointed at Marvin. "You carry the mark of the thread. Only a descendant of the old line would awaken the cradle." Marvin's pulse pounded in his ears. "The old line? What is that?" The custodian took another step. Its voice dropped. "The last family who led the war. The ones who almost ended the Weavers. The ones the Weavers feared most." Marvin swallowed hard. His entire body trembled. The custodian spoke the final truth. "You are the heir of the Dragon Slayer line." The chamber rang with silence. The Empress stared at Marvin with shock, horror, and something else hidden beneath it. Then a deep rumble shook the entire cavern. Dust rained from the ceiling. The ground vibrated. The custodian's visor flared bright red. "It is too late." The Empress spread her wings. "What approaches?" The custodian answered in a voice full of finality. "The Star Weaver followed you." A deafening roar filled the chamber. A tear of blue light ripped open in the air. Shapes emerged. Thousands of shifting limbs. A maw of fractal teeth. The Weaver was here. The Empress snarled. The custodian raised a weapon older than entire civilizations. Marvin stood in the middle of it all. The last heir. The forgotten threat. the one human the weavers feared most. As the creature lunged, Marvin whispered the words he never thought he would say. "I remember nothing." But the weaver whispered back, "Your blood remembers everything." The chamber exploded into war. The chamber erupted into chaos. The Star Weaver hit the stone floor with impossible force, bending reality with every movement. Blue light cracked across the cavern walls like lightning trapped inside glass. Symbols flared. Machines awakened. The air tasted metallic and ancient. Marvin stumbled back as the Weaver unfolded its limbs into shapes the mind was never meant to understand. The Empress launched forward with a roar that shook the pillars. Her wings snapped open. Her flames roared from her jaws, molten gold erupting in a stream that scorched the air. The Weaver twisted its geometry. The flames bent around it, vanished, reappeared behind it. Reality itself rejected the attack. The Empress snarled in disbelief. "It bends flame as if flame is paper." The custodian stepped beside her, leveling a weapon forged from crystalline metal and forgotten mathematics. A pulse fired. The blast was silent, but the Weaver convulsed as if struck by the judgment of a star. It recoiled. The cavern shuddered. Marvin watched, stunned. "You can hurt it." The custodian answered without turning. "It is not pain. It is memory. The weapon forces it to remember defeat." Marvin's heart thumped wildly. "So that is how humans fought them." "Yes," the custodian said. "You force them to recall their losses. They fear memory more than death." The Weaver roared. The sound tore chunks of stone from the ceiling. Every pulse of the cry shook Marvin's ribs. The Empress leaped forward again, smashing her claws into the ground. The blast of force sent shockwaves rolling across the floor. The Weaver staggered. Its limbs twisted. It reformed. It lunged. Straight toward Marvin. The custodian shouted, "Move!" Marvin dove to the side, barely avoiding a limb that tore a slice through reality itself. The floor where he had stood dissolved into shimmering fragments. The Empress intercepted the creature, ramming it with her entire mass. Scales tore against shifting geometry. Her roar shook dust loose from the ancient ceiling. The Weaver wrapped multiple limbs around her torso, trying to crush her. Marvin's heart froze. Empress. Her flames erupted again, brighter and hotter than before. She fought with every atom of her being. She refused to fall. "Human, get up!" Her voice cracked the air like thunder. Marvin scrambled to his feet. His hands burned with a strange heat. He looked down. Blue light, blue fire. The same pulsing glow that had clung to the Empress's talon earlier now danced beneath his skin. He stared, breath caught in his throat. "What is happening to me?" The custodian turned, stunned. "You are awakening." Marvin shook his head. "No, I am just a mechanic." The custodian's visor flashed. "You are not. You are the heir of the old line. The awakening was inevitable." Marvin backed away. "No, that cannot." The Weaver screeched. A ribbon of fractal teeth lashed toward the custodian and tore off half of his armored pauldron. Sparks flew. Metal cracked. The custodian fell to one knee. The Empress roared and smashed the creature aside with her tail, but she staggered afterward. Blue threads wrapped around her wings, tightening, cutting. Marvin's breath caught. The Empress was bleeding molten gold. The Weaver turned toward him again. It sensed him. It wanted him. Marvin felt something inside his mind unlock. A memory he never lived. A voice he never heard. A war he never fought. But his blood remembered it. His hands trembled. The custodian looked at him urgently. "Use it." Marvin shook his head, terrified. "Use what?" "The hatred your ancestors carried," the custodian said. "The rage that tore the Weavers from their thrones." Marvin stared. "I do not hate anything." The custodian glared. "Look at her." Marvin looked. The Empress clawed desperately against the threads. Her wings bled. Her flames flickered. She fought to keep standing. The Weaver tightened its grip. Something snapped inside Marvin's chest. A spark. A flame. A voice in his blood. A roar that belonged to an ancestor whose name had been stolen by time. Marvin shouted without meaning to. No! Blue fire exploded from his palms. It struck the weaver directly. The creature's form convulsed violently. Its limbs twisted. Its geometry collapsed and reformed in rapid spasms. The cavern ceiling cracked. The custodian staggered back. The Empress stared in shock. Marvin felt the fire intensify. He felt thoughts that were not his own flood his mind. Tactics, weapons, star maps, old war hymns, destruction, strength, humanity as it once had been. A voice whispered across his nerves. Awaken, heir. The war never ended. The weaver lunged again, furious now, its shape fracturing as it charged him. Marvin lifted his hands. The blue fire surged, twisting hotter, brighter, wider. He screamed. The cavern walls shook. The pillars carved with human symbols lit up, one by one, responding to him. The custodian stared in awe. The vault recognizes you. The Empress pulled herself free of the threads, wings snapping open with renewed fury. She roared. Human, do not stand alone. She charged. Marvin stepped forward beside her, blue fire in one hand, ancestral fury in his blood. And for the first time in thousands of years, a human and a dragon stood shoulder to shoulder against a star weaver. The weaver lunged. The Empress attacked. Marvin unleashed everything. The world vanished in brilliant light, and what emerged on the other side would change the galaxy forever. The light overwhelmed everything. It swallowed the cavern. It swallowed the pillars. It swallowed Marvin's breath. For a moment, he felt nothing but fire and memory and the echo of a war humanity had once fought with bare hands and impossible courage. Then the light tore apart. Silence crashed over the chamber. Dust drifted through the air in slow spirals. Marvin staggered forward, eyes burning, lungs aching. The Empress stood beside him, her wings smoking, her scales cracked and glowing with molten gold. She shook herself violently, dust falling like embers. The custodian dragged himself upright, damaged but unbroken. All three of them stared ahead. Where the star weaver had stood, now lay a crater of warped stone. Reality itself still bent inward around the impact site, like a wound struggling to close. The weaver was not gone. It was not dead, but it had been forced back. Its body had collapsed into a swirling pool of blue fractal matter that pulsed weakly, reforming itself with agonizing slowness. Marvin exhaled shakily. It is hurt. The custodian nodded. It remembers the old fire. That attack awakened a fear it believed extinct. The Empress lowered her head beside Marvin, still panting from the effort. Her voice was a deep, ragged growl. You struck it in a way I have never seen. Your fire bent its shape. It recoiled from you. Marvin stared at his hands. The blue fire that had once roared like a star was now faint, flickering, barely a whisper. What am I? The custodian stepped closer. You are the descendant of the old line, the blood of the dragon slayers, the ones who mastered the thread and used it as a weapon against the cosmic predators. Marvin shook his head. I do not want to kill anything. The Empress snorted softly. That does not matter. The Weaver wants you dead because you are a threat. You do not get to choose what the universe fears. Marvin looked down. His throat tightened. A threat, a legacy he never asked for, a war he did not understand. The custodian's cracked visor glowed faintly. Your ancestor was different from the others, he said. The last leader of the old line did not wield rage. He wielded compassion. The Weavers could not understand it. They could not predict it. Compassion destroyed them more effectively than any weapon. Marvin blinked. Compassion? The custodian nodded. Yes, compassion can twist the thread against the Weavers. Compassion is a force of memory they cannot digest. It is poison to them. Marvin stared at the flickering blue light in his palm. A poison, a weapon of empathy. He had never heard of anything more human. Before he could speak, the Weaver stirred. The pool of blue matter pulsed once, twice. Then it elongated into tendrils that began to twist upward. The Empress tensed. The custodian raised his damaged weapon. Marvin's pulse spiked. No, it is waking up too fast. Blue fracture spread along the cavern floor, like spreading frost. A warped voice oozed into their minds. You carry the old fire. You carry the old memory. You carry the same flaw that defeated us. The Weaver's voice sharpened into a hiss. Human compassion. The Empress snarled. Do not speak to him. But the Weaver ignored her. Its form rose higher. Its geometry sharpened into blades of light. Its voice filled the chamber. This time, human, we will burn your memory before it spreads. Marvin felt the fire inside him flicker in response. Not rage, not fear, something heavier. He whispered to the Empress, "Why do you protect me?" The Empress did not look away from the Weaver. "Because you protected me." Marvin swallowed. "But you are the Empress. People obey you. People worship you." She finally turned her head. Her golden eyes burned with something new. Something not quite anger, not quite softness, but unmistakably ancient. "People obey me," she said. "But no one has ever touched a weaver's thread with bare hands to save me." Marvin felt his heartbeat stumble. The weaver shrieked. The cavern shook. Geometry lashed out like lightning. The Empress moved instantly, spreading her wings to shield Marvin. The custodian fired another memory pulse. But the weaver only grew stronger. Blue tendrils shot outward, crawling up the pillars, corrupting the ancient human symbols. The custodian shouted in alarm. "It is rewriting the vault." Marvin stepped forward. "No!" He held out his hand. Blue fire sparked weakly. The weaver laughed. "You are empty, human. You burned your power. You have nothing left." Marvin's hand shook. He felt exhausted. His energy was almost gone. But he remembered something. His ancestor's voice whispering in his blood. Compassion. Memory. Connection. He reached out, not with power, with emotion. He placed his hand on the Empress's wing. Her scales were hot, cracked, bleeding gold. The moment his skin touched her, the fire inside him roared back to life. The weaver froze. The custodian stared in shock. The Empress inhaled sharply, eyes widening. Marvin felt something flow between them. Her strength, his memory, her fire, his compassion. Their connection ignited the chamber. Blue and gold flames spiraled together, weaving into something new, something ancient, something the weavers feared more than anything. The flames formed a symbol in the air, a symbol carved on every pillar in the vault, the symbol of the Alliance, the original one, the first alliance ever created. Human and dragon. The weaver recoiled violently. Impossible. That bond was destroyed. That bond was forbidden. Marvin stepped forward, flames swirling around him and the Empress together. "No," he said. His voice echoed with hers. The sound was both human and dragon at once. "The bond is reborn." The blue-gold fire exploded outward. The cavern trembled as the weaver screamed. The flame struck its geometry, and for the first time in thousands of years, a star weaver burned. Its body twisted, collapsed, disintegrated. The chamber fell silent. Marvin collapsed to his knees. The fire faded. The Empress lowered her wings slowly, breathing heavily. The custodian stared at them with something like awe. "You recreated the first bond. The weavers will sense this. The galaxy will tremble." Marvin shivered. "Then what do we do now?" The custodian answered coldly. "You run." The Empress growled. "No, we fight." The custodian turned to her. "You will not win this time without allies." The Empress looked at Marvin. He looked back. Something unspoken passed between them. Footsteps echoed deeper in the vault. Distant machinery awakened. A new presence stirred. Not weaver, not custodian. Something else. Something older. The custodian stiffened. "No, no. This chamber should have been sealed. Nothing else should have survived down here." The Empress lowered herself protectively near Marvin. "What is it?" The custodian's visor flickered. His voice dropped to a whispered dread. "A survivor." A shadow moved between the pillars. A figure stepped into view, and Marvin felt his heart stop, because the figure was human, but not like any human alive today. armored in ancient metal, eyes glowing with blue light, and it spoke a single sentence that shattered everything. I am the ancestor who awakened the thread before you, and I have been waiting for you, Marvin Hale. The storm intensified around them, as if the sky itself wished to drown the truth that had just surfaced. Rain hammered the metal catwalks. Lightning forked through the swollen clouds. The Empress Dragon stood motionless at the edge of the platform, wings half spread, shimmering with wet crimson fire beneath the storm. Alden faced her, soaked, breath trembling, but not from fear, from disappointment, from a fracture of belief he once carried like a lantern in the dark. The Empress finally spoke. Her voice rolled through the storm like an ancient engine awakening. Alden, you were never supposed to see that. He stared at her glowing eyes. Then why did you let me get close? Why did you treat me like I mattered? Why pretend you respected humans? The Empress exhaled, and steam curled from her nostrils. I do respect humans, more than you know, yet you kept the truth hidden. Alden's jaw tightened. Those bodies, those ships, those symbols, that chamber under the hangar. You knew humans were hunted long before the archives ever admitted it. The Empress lowered her head. The universe hunts anything that becomes too powerful. Humans rose too fast, too sharp, too unpredictable. Unpredictable? Alden stepped forward. Or unstoppable? The storm split with thunder. For a moment, the entire shipyard looked like the bones of a giant creature, illuminated from within. The Empress Dragon moved one step closer, enormous talons clicking against the drenched metal. She lowered herself to his height, so her eyes met his without a single layer of armor or intimidation between them. You are not weak prey. Humans never were, she said softly. You frightened the ancient powers. You frightened the species that shaped the galaxy before your kind had even discovered fire. You frightened even me. Alden blinked rain from his eyes. Then why hide it? The Empress hesitated. A rare and dangerous thing. Because you're the first human I have ever cared about, she whispered. And care is a vulnerability I cannot afford. Alden felt his heart twist painfully. Because he believed her. Because even with her secrets, her manipulation, her powers so vast it bent the air around her, he knew she would not lie about this. Lightning flashed again, but this time it illuminated movement far across the platform. Shadows, tall ones, wearing cloaks that refracted the rain instead of getting wet. Alden saw them first. Figures with no faces, armor that shimmered like starlight, symbols carved across their chests, the same symbols he had seen in the Forbidden Chamber. His pulse slammed through him. Empress, he whispered harshly, we are not alone. The Empress Dragon turned, her pupils narrowing to slits. Her wings unfurled in a single explosive snap that sent sheets of water cascading from the metal around them. They arrived sooner than I expected, she growled, fangs glinting. The cloaked figures stepped forward in absolute silence. Their presence pressed against Alden's skull like invisible hands. The air thickened. Gravity warped. The Empress spread her claws protectively in front of him. Stay behind me. Alden lifted the tool satchel he always carried, gripping it like a shield. He swallowed hard. No, he said. I stand with you. The Empress turned her head, eyes widening slightly, because she felt the conviction in him. Unbendable. Human. The nearest cloaked figure raised an arm, and space around its hand collapsed inward like a black hole trying to breathe. The Empress snarled, flame igniting under her scales. Alden stepped forward anyway. The cloaked figure froze, then tilted its head, as if suddenly confused. Alden's presence, his defiance, his raw, unfiltered human will, disrupted whatever alien pressure it had been projecting. Just by standing, the Empress gasped under her breath. They cannot influence you, she whispered in astonishment. No ancient species has that resistance. Alden clenched his fists. Maybe that is why they hunted us. Maybe that is why they feared us. The cloaked figures moved again, but this time slower, more cautious. The Empress lowered her stance, preparing to attack. Alden's mind raced with a dozen impossible thoughts, a dozen unanswered questions, A dozen truths waiting to break him further. But there was no time. The aliens advanced, and just as the first one lifted its shimmering blade made of collapsed light, Alden felt something inside him awaken. Something old, something human, something the galaxy had nearly erased. And the storm above them cracked open as if responding to him alone. The storm that raged above the shipyard slowly began to ease, as if the sky itself sensed a shift in destiny unfolding below. The lightning dimmed. The thunder softened. The rain thinned into a silvery drizzle that clung to the metal walkways, like a final whisper from the universe. Alden stood motionless at the edge of the drenched platform, his heart pounding with a cold, sharp ache. The cloaked entities that had descended upon them were no longer advancing. They were no longer attacking. They were simply watching him, as though every breath he drew carried a weight they had never expected a human could possess. The Empress Dragon, wings half spread in a defensive arc, slowly straightened. Her scales flickered with the dying embers of battle flame, and she turned her enormous head toward him. The crimson fire in her eyes dimmed to something far more fragile. Understanding, fear, hope. Alden, she murmured, voice trembling in a way he had never imagined possible for a being who commanded empires. When you stepped forward, they hesitated. They felt something in you. Alden swallowed, the rain mixing with the sweat on his brow. I did not feel anything. The Empress shook her head. You awakened something. Something your species once carried with pride and fury. Something the ancient powers feared so deeply that they chained humanity to obscurity. Alden stared at the shimmering aliens, their cloaks rippling in patterns that made no logical sense, like reflections of stars seen through ripples on water. They remained utterly still, watching him with no eyes, no faces, no emotion. And yet he could feel it. Pressure, curiosity, calculation. What did I awaken? He asked quietly. The Empress Dragon lowered herself, so her face met his. Rain dripped from the razor-sharp ridges of her snout. The echo flame, she whispered. A fragment of your ancestors' will. A primal force that even the earliest civilizations could not understand. Humans were not only clever and adaptable, humans were a threat to the cosmic order itself. Alden took a shaky step back. A threat? The Empress nodded. Humans were the only species capable of resisting psychic domination, the only species capable of reversing reality-based technologies. You were the only species that could turn a weapon designed to erase you into a weapon that erased your enemies instead. Alden's chest tightened. He had always felt small in the universe. Insignificant. A single mechanic on a shipyard far from home. A man who fixed engines and cleaned hull plating and tried to pretend the stars did not make him feel lonely. Now the universe was showing him something else entirely. You are not small, the Empress said, reading his expression. Your kind never was. The cloaked entities suddenly shifted. Their cloak fabric rippled, and the gravity around them warped again. The Empress stepped in front of Alden instinctively, but one of the figures raised a hand, not to attack, to communicate. A voice, thin, metallic, fractured with static, echoed through the platform. Human, you awaken what should remain silent. Alden froze. The Empress snarled. Silence yourselves. You have interfered enough. The figure ignored her, its head tilted slightly. Human, step forward. The air tightened like a fist around Alden's ribs. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But the echo flame, whatever it truly was, pulsed faintly inside him like a drumbeat from a forgotten era. He stepped forward. The Empress tensed, but he gently touched her talon. I must, he said softly. She closed her eyes in torment. Please be careful. Alden moved toward the entities, his footsteps echoing through the quieting storm. When he reached them, they parted to form a circle around him. The pressure increased. Space bent in ways his mind could not comprehend. His breath became thin and shaky. The lead entity raised its shimmering arm. Human, witness. Alden's vision exploded into darkness, then into stars, then into memories that were not his. He saw ancient battlefields stretching across galaxies. He saw humans, not the weak, terrified species portrayed in modern archives, but warriors of impossible will. They fought with bare hands against armies of psychic titans. They shattered weapons forged from collapsed stars. They stood unbroken in the face of extinction. They burned with the same fire Alden felt now in his chest. The echo flame. He saw the ancient powers recoil in terror, unprepared for humanity's rise. He saw them form alliances with their own enemies to stop the unstoppable. He saw them manipulate history, erase records, collapse timelines, destroy entire star systems just to break the momentum of the species they feared most. Then he saw the final truth. Humanity had never been defeated. Humanity had chosen to sleep, chosen to seal their power, chosen to diminish themselves so the galaxy could continue. Alden's breath caught. His ancestors had sacrificed their own greatness to preserve universal balance. And the ancient powers, terrified it might awaken again, had spent millennia ensuring humans remain harmless. The vision shattered. Alden found himself kneeling on the wet platform, gasping. The Empress roared in outrage and rushed aside. "What did you show him?" she thundered. The cloaked figures remained calm. "Truth." Alden looked up, drenched, trembling, but not broken. "The echo flame was not a weapon," he whispered. "It was a burden, a responsibility. Humanity gave it up to save everyone." The Empress flinched, shocked into silence. Alden stood slowly, wiping rain from his face. "And now," he said, "it is waking again." The lead entity stepped closer. The rain did not touch it. The air around it vibrated like a string pulled too tight. "Human, you must choose." Alden steadied himself. "Choose what?" The entity's voice became colder. "Will humanity rise again or remain dormant? If you rise, the ancient conflict returns. If you sleep, the galaxy remains stable." The Empress Dragon growled. "You cannot ask that of him. He is one man." "He is the first to awaken," the entity responded. "Where the flame is reborn, others will follow." Alden felt the weight of infinity pressing on his ribs. The galaxy at peace, or the galaxy reborn in fire. The power of his ancestors, or the safety of the countless species who now thrived. Humanity's rightful place, or the fragile equilibrium they once protected. He closed his eyes. He saw his mother's tired smile. He saw the Earth that had always felt forgotten. He saw himself fixing engines alone at night. He saw the Empress Dragon watching him with unspoken devotion. He saw the visions of ancient humans standing unbroken among godlike enemies. He felt the storm quiet, and he understood. He opened his eyes. "I choose neither," Alden said. The entities stiffened. Even the Empress looked startled. Alden stepped forward, each word steady as iron. "I will not rise as a conqueror. I will not sleep as a coward. I will rise as a guardian." The cloaked figures rippled violently, startled. The Empress whispered, "Alden," he continued, voice growing stronger. "Humanity will regain its flame, but not to rule, not to dominate, not to terrify the universe again." He lifted his chin. "We rise to protect it." Silence settled over the shipyard. A silence so deep even the rain refused to fall. The entity finally spoke. A path unrecorded. A choice never once taken. Alden stepped back to the Empress Dragon's side. His hand rested gently on her scale forearm. "We decide our future," he said. "Not fear, not history, and not you." The entity lowered its head. "Then the universe will judge your choice in time." One by one, the cloaked figures dissolved into shimmering particles, drawn upward like fireflies pulled into the wind. The air warped, twisted, and then snapped back into place. They were gone. The storm ended. Only the Empress and Alden remained on the quiet platform. Alden felt his legs weaken. She lowered a wing for him to lean against, her massive form curling protectively around him. "You changed everything," she whispered. "You changed me." Alden exhaled shakily. "I only told the truth." The Empress gently nudged her forehead to his shoulder, a gesture no dragon monarch had ever given a mortal. "You did more than that. You reminded the universe what humans truly are." Alden closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, the stars above did not make him feel small. They felt like home. A new dawn spread across the horizon. casting molten gold across the shipyard. The future stretched before them, uncertain, dangerous, full of enemies who would soon learn that humanity's fire had returned. But Alden no longer feared it, because he knew one truth that no ancient power could erase. Humanity did not rise to conquer. Humanity rose to protect. And nothing in the universe was stronger than a human who remembered what they truly were. The Empress spread her wings, lifting him gently onto her back. She looked toward the brightening sky. "Alden," she said softly, "where shall we go next?" Alden smiled. "Where we are needed." And together they rose into the dawn, man and dragon, guardian and flame, ready to face the universe reborn.